Part 78, he got very angry because out of his love no control. Bai Yunfei sat up early and waited by the head of the bed. Bai Yiqing and Lin Qijun have a good relationship because Lin Qijun is good to her brother and often sends some good things to her. Because she cares about Lin Qijun's hand. She tried to go to the window several times to see how the dressing was, but Bai Yunfei's eyes were stopped. And she was only wondering why brother Lin and this brother Xuan had some wrong expressions on their faces, but she was quiet and shy. So she was just bored in her heart and didn't take the initiative to ask. Seeing the two come over, Bai Yiqing asked, "Brother Lin, does your hand still hurt?" Lin Qijun said, "It doesn't hurt anymore." Bai Yunfei said, "Show me." Lin Qijun forced a smile and said, "It's all wrapped up, what's there to see?" Having said that, he still shook his finger in front of Bai Yunfei's eyes. Bai Yunfei also smiled and said, "It's not worth it to save so much blood for one bite." Lin Qijun said, "Isn't that right?" Bai Yiqing kept staring at Lin Qijun's face, and asked with curiosity, "Brother Lin, have you cried? Your eyes are red." Bai Yunfei said hurriedly, "He took care of me all night yesterday. He was tired and of course there were bloodshot eyes. Didn't you see it when you came over this morning? This little girl, if you say that you are careless, you still refuse to accept it." Bai Yiqing was scolded by her brother and felt very aggrieved. Just as she was about to open her mouth to speak, Xuan Huaifeng inserted his mouth naturally and asked Bai Yunfei, "What did the doctor say? How can you cure this disease?" Bai Yunfei said, "I don't think there is any cure. And I don't feel any pain. I just feel weaker." Lin Qijun said, "The doctor said it was lung inflammation, but luckily I got it. It's in time, if it's later, I don't know what will happen." Bai Yunfei said, "It's sensational. Traditional Chinese medicine doesn't scare people like this. My illness is left to the doctor's attention. As long as I rest for a few days, I will be fine. How can Western medicine make such a fuss?" The Catholic girls' school that Bai Yiqing attended was very fond of Western medicine. And after hearing what he said, she disapproved of it and interjected, "Brother, what you said is really like an old man in his 70s or 80s. A few people chatted for a while about the strengths and weaknesses of traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine. Later, because Bai Yiqing asked Brother Xuan where he was serving as an adjutant, it was inevitable that words such as customs tax would be involved. Talking about the recent search of the entrained goods on the vehicle and boat, Lin Qijun smiled and said, "I heard from a friend that it will be stricter soon. And the probability of being spotted by several large foreign firms will increase. In order to prevent the inspectors from being bribed, it is necessary to change who is dispatched on the ship for inspection on a few days. I don't know if there are any of those big ocean companies. Are there any of us Daxin Yangxing? Looking through it, it's really boring." Xuan Huaifeng was sure that Bai Xuelan was going to repair Daxin Yangxing. At this moment, the friends were chatting happily. And Lin Qijun asked it casually in person, but he knew the truth and couldn't tell the truth, so he felt a little guilty. After pondering for a moment, he said slowly, "I haven't seen the list. So I don't dare to talk nonsense. In fact, the customs do not want to embarrass the foreign companies. Without the foreign companies, who will the customs ask to collect so much tax? Daxin Yangxing will naturally be safe as long as it doesn't do illegal things." He thought he had done a good job of covering it up, but Lin Qijun had known him for more than 10 years. And his familiarity with him should not be underestimated. Seeing that Xuan Huaifeng's eyes were uncomfortable, and his voice was lower than usual, it was obvious that he had something on his mind. And his words were insincere. Lin Qijun got the news last night that Bai Xuelan treated several big bosses and cut their necks for blood before letting out the children of the merchants arrested by the customs. Besides, he called Boss Wang early to think about it. Asked about the situation, Boss Wang actually went out early in the morning, and when asked where he went, Boss Wang's housekeeper was hesitant. Now it seems that Boss Wang didn't go out at all. I just didn't know what to do to him, or I didn't dare to contact him in order to avoid disaster. After contacting him a few times and seeing Xuan Huaifeng's reaction, Lin Qijun's heart was shocked, and he immediately knew that something was wrong. He has been doing business for a few years and can make a scene in the capital. Naturally, he has his unique ability. Although he is panicked, his face does not show a trace. He nodded accommodatingly, and looked directly into Xuan Huaifeng's eyes and said, "That's what you said. I have never done anything wrong in my life. And I'm not afraid of ghosts knocking on the door in the middle of the night. I'm not afraid of random inspections. As long as the customs act swiftly, it's fine not to delay our business. If a large batch of goods is detained for 10 days for half a month, it would be a little troublesome." Xuan Huaifeng felt relieved to see him so frank. In this way, even if Bai Xuelan deliberately copied Da Xin Yangxing's goods, it would not cause any accident to Lin Qijun. At most it would cause him some trouble and teach him a lesson. Xuan Huaifeng said, "You too underestimate our customs. No matter how inefficient we are, we won't be dawdling for 10 days and a half." The two smiled at each other. Xuan Huaifeng sat for a while longer, comforted Bai Yunfei and left. As soon as he left, Lin Qijun couldn't sit still no matter what, and said to Bai Yunfei, "I will definitely see you again tomorrow." He got into his car before leaving the hospital, and said with a sullen face, "Quick, go to Mr. Charter's mansion." His driver was urged by him, and he drove all the way, almost hitting a pedestrian. The wind generally rushed to a very imposing mansion and stopped. Lin Qijun got out of the car, hurried up the steps, took out a business card to the servant who came up, and said, "I'm from Da Xin Yangxing. My surname is Lin. Is Mr. Angel Charters at home? I have something important. I need to meet him immediately." The servant took his business card and saw that it was the young owner of Diang, and he didn't dare to neglect. He asked with a smile, "Second young master is here. But there are too many people looking for him in the past 2 days. He seems a little annoyed. Whenever you want to pass the information, you must first ask what it is. And only meet with people who have serious business. I'm sorry, what is you doing?" If he asks the little ones can answer. Lin Qijun said a little. He hesitated, pondered for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "Just tell him that I'm very interested to talk about the things we mentioned last time." After probing Bai Yunfei, Xuan Huaifeng came out of the senior ward. When he went downstairs, he was always a little worried about Huang Wanxian. He went around to Huang Wanxian's ward, quietly pushed the door, and looked inside. The room was very quiet. Huang Wanxian was lying on the bed, looking like he had fallen asleep. Sitting beside the bed was a girl with long braids. Because she was leaning on her side, she could only see the small half of her face, which should be Huang Wanxian's younger sister. This is also a coincidence. 2 of his friends happened to live in the same hospital, and both of them had a sister by their side. Chengping was also in the ward. Because there was nothing to do, he was reading a newspaper when he saw that the door was open, and when he saw that it was Xuan Huaifeng, he put the newspaper on the table, stood up and planned to go over. Xuan Huaifeng quickly shook his hand, asking him not to speak, so as not to wake up the patient, making mouth shapes and making simple, understandable gestures. "You take care of me. I'll go back first." Chengping nodded, indicating that he understood. Xuan Huaifeng closed the door again and led Song Ren and the others away. Song Ren sat in the back of the Lincoln car with Xuan Huaifeng and asked, "Adjutant Xuan, it's time to go back to the mansion." Xuan Huaifeng looked at his watch and said, "It's only 2 o'clock. So it's fine to go back so early. I couldn't find it yesterday. To that Aldridge Brown, I left a message saying that I will visit again today. Let's go there first. This is a serious business. And there is no delay." The driver drove the car to the door of the small villa by the Green Willow River. They went down and rang the bell. The door opened. And it was the same old woman from yesterday. When asked, Dr. Brown went out again. Song Ren said, "It's really bad luck. This foreigner just doesn't know the etiquette. Knowing that we were here yesterday, we left a message. Why did he go out again today?" He glared at the old woman and asked her, "The business card we left yesterday. Did you give it to your foreign master?" He was so angry that the old woman was afraid of him, so she nodded quickly and said, "Yes." Song Ren pointed to Xuan Huaifeng and asked her, "You also said what this person said to you yesterday?" Nodding, "I said it." Seeing that the old woman was timid, Xuan Huaifeng couldn't bear it and said with a smile, "We are unlucky. What are we doing to bluff her? This is a famous doctor from abroad. And some of them are very busy with official business. They don't know each other, and it would be too arrogant to ask others to wait for us to come over behind closed doors." Liu Bei invited Zhu Liang to visit the cottage. Song Ren said, "Don't be annoyed, I'm going to refute your sentence. Can a foreigner compare with Zhu Liang? Zhu Liang is a living god." Xuan Huaifeng said, "It is a god who can save lives, and Dr. Brown's ability to save the lives of those who are drug addicts is also a god." He took out a $5 piece of money and gave it to the old woman, saying, "If the doctor comes back, please tell him that we are here again today, and unfortunately we didn't meet. We are sincerely asking for advice, and we will visit again tomorrow." "When I got the money," she happily responded. The two walked back and got into the car again. As soon as Song Ren touched the cushion on his butt, he said, "Adjutant Xuan, you really want to go home this time? We came out early in the morning. And we haven't said hello to the chief yet. If we go back late, he won't scold you, but will only scold me. Point at me and scold me." Xuan Huaifeng said with a smile, "It's only what time. I'm doing the official business he wants me to do, not going out to flirt. What can he scold? But you said so, let's go back." At this hour, 80% of the chief is still working in the customs office. Unexpectedly, when the car drove back to the mansion, a servant reported that the chief had returned. Song Ren spread his hands and said to Xuan Huaifeng, "Look, let me be right. You also said that 80% of the time he works in the office. I guess he's 80% of the time waiting here." Xuan Huaifeng smiled and said, "You've made great progress these days, you can even use idioms. Which master did you learn from?" Song Ren said, "I don't have time to spare, don't I all follow you for a walk outside? I've heard the story of this rabbit before, it's very interesting, so I remember it. I won't tell you, go in quickly. The chief will ask for it. Hurry up, but I'm good at it." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Since he's waiting for the rabbit, let him guard it." The rabbit hit the tree stump only because he was blind. But I wasn't blind. Let the wind blow at this gate for a while. Song Ren thought he was telling the truth, so anxious that the two thick eyebrows came together. Xuan Huaifeng smiled and went in generously. When he got to the door of the study, he stood still, and before he could talk to the inside, he heard Bai Xuelan's voice coming from inside, very majestic. "You have been out for a day. Do you still want to slip when you come back? Come in. I'm going to hit your ass a few times." Speaking of the last sentence, there was a smile in his tone. Xuan Huaifeng stepped into the door gracefully, shrugged, and said, "I went out for a busy day. And I had no credit for hard work. Why should I be beaten? Bai Xuelan said, it's such a big sin for you to leave me for a day. I wanted to get up in the morning. But you tricked me into falling asleep again, but when I woke up, you ran away early. As soon as I went out, you spent a day hanging around, telling me, where did you go? It's time to call back and tell me where you are. He was sitting at the desk, and when Xuan Huaifeng came in, he threw the pen, put his elbows on the table, and looked up at Xuan Huaifeng. Xuan Huaifeng said with a smile, I'm a little bit sorry. It happened suddenly. I was afraid of the delay, so I went out in a hurry. Later, when those personal things were done, I thought of business and went to visit Dr. Brown. It's a pity that he went out again. Bai Xuelan slapped his hand crisply, his handsome cheeks burst into a smile, and said, you two are stingy. He was sitting here when you went to his house for dinner. Look, he drank the cup of coffee on the table. He lifted his chin. Xuan Huaifeng turned his head to look. On the low table surrounded by two soft sofas, there were indeed two foreign porcelain cups with leftover coffee. He was pleasantly surprised. Did he actually come here in person? You talked to him about it. How's it going? Bai Xuelan said, this man looks good. He said he went home yesterday, and he heard from the people that a customs official came to look for him. He was very happy when he mentioned that you would set up a drug rehabilitation center. He studied abroad and his expertise is in this area. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to find people in China who are willing to put in the effort to do this. After visiting several cities, he couldn't find a place where he could display his strengths. So, he was very frustrated, and he was planning to go back to his country to continue his research, but you happened to be there. He couldn't wait. So he came to the door today. Xuan Huaifeng's eyes were dark, and he said excitedly, this is really good news. Is that right? Bai Xuelan glanced at him and asked him, what else can we talk about? I'm not good at English, and he doesn't understand French. We barely managed to talk a few words, so I had to make an appointment next time when my adjutant didn't run away. Let's meet again. If you didn't go out, you might be able to negotiate a lot of measures today. You said, should I give you a few spankings? What are you doing so far away? Come here. I won't eat you. Where is Xuan Huaifeng? Afraid of him now, he walked over casually, leaned his hips against the edge of the table, put his arms around his chest, looked down slightly, and landed on the seated Bai Xuelan's face, sighed, and asked, do you really want to beat someone? Even if you want to be beaten, at least let me eat something first. Bai Xuelan grabbed him and pulled him into his arms, forcing him to sit on his lap and asked with a sullen face, this is what's the hour? You haven't eaten lunch yet? Damn it. Song Ren is also a dry eater, so he doesn't know how to watch over you. You are hateful enough. He bit Xuan Huaifeng's neck in anger. While biting Xuan Huaifeng and frowning, he stretched out his hand and rattled the bell. When the servant came in, he finally let go, like a wild leopard addicted to tearing its prey. He raised his head and said, tell the kitchen to get something to eat. Come here, don't be too meaty. Don't want spicy food that hurts the stomach, and want something softer. After the waiter left, he put his mouth back to the seductive softness and delicateness just now, his teeth grinding his lips and sucking from his neck. He gnawed on his chin, kissed his chin on his lips, and was so mad that Xuan Huaifeng had disordered breathing and blushing cheeks. In the end, unwillingly, he gently bit Xuan Huaifeng's pretty nose and asked him, what was the reason for going out in such a hurry early in the morning? It happened, but I heard half of it but couldn't hear the other half. So I couldn't explain it in a mess. Xuan Huaifeng's breathing was still a little bit sexy, and he whispered, it's a friend of mine named Xuan Huaifeng, who was caught by the police and arrested him for no reason. He then went to jail to release Xuan Huaifeng on bail, and then he was sent to the hospital because of a leg injury, and finally said, "To frame and beat the arrested person, it's really outrageous." Bai Xuelan said, "What kind of grievance is this? To be honest, your friend is very lucky. They only broke his leg and didn't let anyone cut his tongue. His tongue can really cause trouble. Come on, this is the one who set the fire on me, right?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "It's already unfortunate enough, don't hold grudges against these trivialities." Bai Xuelan said, "I don't hold grudges, it's just an example. He can't control it, his own mouth is a curse. It doesn't matter if you offend me, but if you offend others, others won't let him go." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Whoever said it doesn't matter if he offends you? The person in the world who can't offend him the most, I think, is you." He said these words casually, but as soon as he said it, he suddenly remembered what happened to Da Xin Yangxing. And his heart beat for no reason. The smile gradually faded. Bai Xuelan asked, "You went to accompany your friend with a broken leg all morning?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "Not all. I also went to see Pai Yunfei. He was also ill. Coincidentally, he also lived in that hospital, and happened to live in the same ward when I was shot last time. I went to see him, chatted, and forgot the time. When I was leaving, I looked at my watch and realized it was 2 o'clock. I went to Dr. Brown's house for an empty run and came back." Bai Xuelan was also surprised and asked him, "Why is Pai Yunfei hospitalized? He also came to the last Lotus Flowers party, and he became so sick without making a sound." Xuan Huaifeng said, "Last time I thought he looked bad, and when I asked him, he was reserved and refused to say anything. I also asked today to find out that he has been procrastinating after catching a cold, and his voice is not getting better. He is hoarse, and he can't even go on stage. I guess he is unhappy in his heart, so his condition is more repeated." Bai Xuelan has always appreciated Pai Yunfei, and after listening to his situation, he said, "He is very good in many aspects. But he is stubborn. I know that he is a taboo and avoids doctors. I will go to see him tomorrow, scold him for being bloody, and tell him to get to know him better." The next lesson. Xuan Huaifeng said, "If you are willing to see him, he must be very happy." As soon as he spoke, his chest suddenly froze. Suddenly I remembered that Lin Qijun was probably always there to take care of Pai Yunfei. If Bai Xuelan passed by and the two collided, wouldn't it be an accident? Even if Lin Qijun tolerated his temper docilely, Bai Xuelan, the Demon King, had an inch of his temper. Wanting to tell Bai Xuelan not to go, but it is more likely to arouse Bai Xuelan's suspicion. How smart Bai Xuelan is, if he said a word crookedly, he would be sure to be taken out immediately by him, and even the meeting with Lin Qijun today would be exposed. Why can't these two people be safe from the water of the well? What a headache. Xuan Huaifeng was troubled in his heart, and said, "You said that he is taboo and avoids doctors." "You are absolutely right. He has been insisting that he refuses to see a doctor, and in the end, the small source has become a serious problem. His lungs are infected." Bai Xuelan was thinking about what secret was hidden in Xuan Huaifeng's frown, and when he heard the last sentence, he grabbed Xuan Huaifeng's arm suddenly. His eyes were cold and electric, and he said in a deep voice, "Question. You said just now that his lungs were infected, isn't that pneumonia?" Within a few meters around him, the temperature suddenly dropped a few degrees. Xuan Huaifeng said, "It's a coincidence, I was just like what you asked." Yes, it was indeed pneumonia. Bai Xuelan, you hurt me. After earning it. I couldn't earn it. He turned to look, startled. Bai Xuelan's face had darkened, his eyes were terrifying. He stood up abruptly, dragged Xuan Huaifeng to the bathroom, and turned on the hot water faucet. He is not afraid of spending money. The hot water in the mansion is always waiting for 24 hours, and the brass faucet is gushing water. It was cold at first, and it was misty after a while. Bai Xuelan let the hot water flow, and reached out to release Xuan Huaifeng's chest. Xuan Huaifeng asked in surprise. "What are you doing?" He shrank back. Bai Xuelan acted even more rudely. He pressed him against the bathroom wall, peeled it clean in 3 or 2 strokes, and turned around to get the towel. He didn't say a word, he was sullen, and even more suffocating. Even Xuan Huaifeng couldn't help but jump in fear, staring at the sky, and ran out of the bathroom with the clothes that had been stripped forcibly. Bai Xuelan swooped up, dragged him back like an eagle, dipped the towel in the hot water, twisted it half dry, and wiped it on him. Xuan Huaifeng was so hot that he screamed. Bai Xuelan's face was ashen, and it was obvious that he was out of anger. After wiping it a few times, he dipped the towel in the hot water again, twisted it dry, and tried again. Xuan Huaifeng's skin was white and tender, and his jade-like arm was rubbed red. Bai Xuelan glared at him like a wolf, gritted his teeth and growled, "If you're not being honest, I'm going to hit people." Xuan Huaifeng was originally full of anger and wanted to resist him, but when he drank it so mercilessly, the heart seemed to be slapped hard by the belt, and the pain was dripping with blood. The anger turned into a heartache and went straight to his eyes. Tears rolled to and from in the eye sockets, and they only held on to not fall down and be embarrassing. Xuan Huaifeng thought to himself, "This body is my own, and I would rather spoil it myself than let you do this." As soon as he gritted his teeth, he didn't know where the strength came from. With both hands, he suddenly pushed Bai Xuelan back 2 steps, bent over, and put half of his shoulders under the open brass water tap. It was Bai Xuelan's turn to be frightened, and shouted, "What are you doing?" He threw away the hot towel and pulled Xuan Huaifeng aside. Although he moved extremely fast, Xuan Huaifeng's shoulders were instantly red and took a slice. Bai Xuelan was so angry that he was afraid that he would do something stupid again. So he wrapped his arms tightly around him and said, "You're crazy, that's 70 to 80-degree hot water." Xuan Huaifeng didn't answer, glaring at him with his teeth. Bai Xuelan was about to be rubbed to death by this nemesis. Before the faucet was turned off, the hot water was rushing all over the floor, and even the floor tiles were hot. But he didn't care about turning off the faucet, and he hugged Xuan Huaifeng, then came out and let him go. He tucked it under the quilt, and hurriedly picked up a plate of hot water and put it by the bed. Still twisting the hot towel, he took out Xuan Huaifeng's hands and feet from the quilt and wiped it over and over again. Xuan Huaifeng's shoulders hurt from the heat. He just let out his anger. And now he let it out in one breath, but his heart was choked and uncomfortable. He simply let Bai Xuelan do whatever he liked, as if he was not touching his own hands and feet, lying on his back. He turned his head inward and said nothing. Bai Xuelan didn't talk to him either, just doing his own thing. Holding the wash basin back and forth to fill the hot water, twist the towel. He has been rubbing every part of his body with a hot towel, and his whole body turned red like boiled shrimp, so he emptied the water in the wash basin, said a few words to the door and the servant, and hurriedly tried again. Back in the house, rummaging through the drawers. After a while, I found a small glass bottle from the drawer. Bai Xuelan walked to the bed and forced Xuan Huaifeng to sit up from the bed. Seeing his aura, Xuan Huaifeng thought he was going to beat people, so he closed his eyes and had a stubborn look on his face, thinking that if you want to beat him, beat me up, and don't even think about me saying a word if you beat me to death. But Bai Xuelan didn't want to slap him, and his shoulders suddenly felt cool. Xuan Huaifeng opened his eyes and saw Bai Xuelan hooked his finger into the glass bottle, dipped in some white frost like plaster. and smeared a large area on the red spot on his shoulder. I knew it was a cure for burns. My heart felt like I was being slapped by a rope. Although it was painful, angry and sad just now. The tears were only swirling in the eyes after all. It's fine now, but I'm not prepared. As soon as my vision is blurred, a hot drop slips out of the eye socket. Xuan Huaifeng was taken aback and felt that such an unprovoked cry was a woman's demeanor. Fearing that Bai Xuelan would find out, he suddenly broke Bai Xuelan's arm, turned over and lay down again. He acted in a hurry. Bai Xuelan was concentrating on applying medicine for him. Without any precaution, he couldn't help slipping. Bang! The glass bottle containing the scald medicine smashed to the ground and shattered into pieces. Xuan Huaifeng just lay down. When he heard the voice, his body suddenly froze. He knew that Bai Xuelan had smashed something, so he wanted to sit up and take a look, but he hesitated. After thinking about it, he was still lying on the bed with his back to Bai Xuelan. Reaching out a hand, he slowly pulled the quilt above his neck, almost covering half of his face, as if to hide himself. Seen from behind, this is a complete declaration of a Cold War. The room was very quiet. Xuan Huaifeng pricked up his ears and heard Bai Xuelan's breathing suddenly become heavy, and he was also very anxious. How did it get so good? I was depressed and annoyed. And I didn't know what to do when something suddenly fell on the bed, limp. Bai Xuelan let out a low voice. Put it on. Xuan Huaifeng stuck his hand out of the quilt and pulled it out to see that it was a set of cotton pajamas. It rustled under the quilt. Then wait for Bai Xuelan to lose his temper. Not wanting to wait for a long time, Bai Xuelan didn't say a word, and the silent atmosphere made people even more depressed, as if being punished by reincarnation.